So as I tell you again, in the morning, the Dow was falling 400-plus points and then 500-plus points. The White House sent out President Trump's new chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, to Fox Business's cameras to calm the markets, saying the initial stock shock was short-term pain to bring long-term gain. Listen.
I think that at the end of this whole process, the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold. And if you open up that pot, you will see better economic growth, more trading going on, improved wages for both sides. There's no trade war here. What you've got is the early stages of a process that will include tariffs, comments on the tariffs, then ultimate decisions and negotiations.
Wall Street Journal editorial board member Mary Kissel not buying it. Professor Brian Brenberg, chair of the Business and Finance. They're both smiling. I'm glad to see them. Chair of the Finance and Business program at the King's College in Manhattan is ready to play devil's advocate. All right, both Larry Kudlow and the president today rejected the notion we are now in a trade war. To begin with, for the sake of semantics, are we or are we not in a trade war with China? Mary, you first.
Well, Liz, if you look at the market over the last several months, not just the recovery today, yes, of course we're in a trade war. Basically, Trump's argument, Kudlow's argument is, well, we're not in a trade war just because I said so. Markets are telling us something very different, Liz.
Okay, Brian, Professor, are we or are we not in a trade war? It looks like one person takes a shot, one nation takes a shot, the next one takes a shot, and now we're in the third or fourth iteration of this.
They're setting up the terms to be in a trade war, but we're not in a trade war yet. We're in the beginning stages of a negotiation. Both sides are trying to figure out what they can do. They're putting their terms on the table. It's fine to do that. That's how negotiations work. If we end up seeing these tariffs applied, and by the way, they're not going to be applied on the U.S. side for maybe 6 months. On the Chinese side, we have no idea if they'll ever be applied. So we're in the beginning of a negotiation. This isn't a trade war yet. Yes, it can go there, but we're not there.
Yeah, I think the problem with that argument is that, look, we are in the middle of a global economy, and companies have to rely on certainty. A lot of products are made by being shipped between companies. When you talk about a Chinese export or a U.S. export, it's not all made in China or made in the United States. And that's why you've seen markets on a downward trend because of that uncertainty over the past several months.
Professor, I want to bring up to both of you, actually, a note. I always read Peter Bookvar's note. Peter Bookvar is a macroeconomic expert. He looks at these things, and he put out quite a statement today. It caught my eye immediately. He called for the resignation of Peter Navarro, Robert Lighthizer, and Wilbur Ross, the triumvirate of trade for President Trump. And he said, if protecting U.S. intellectual property is the ultimate goal here, I'm not sure how destroying shareholder wealth, damaging CEO confidence, and making the American farmer the main sacrificial lamb here after 6 years of pain on the farm is going to get us there. Donald Trump, you are no longer welcome in Iowa. Wow, that's corn, that's ethanol that already the Chinese have said, we'll find it elsewhere.
Well, look, it's a negotiation here. The president's job is to manage the negotiation. I agree. He has a party of rivals. Larry Kudlow is a very different economist than Peter Navarro, and it's the president's job to put those two pieces together and get to an answer that actually does protect U.S. intellectual property. If he can't do that, it's on him. But what he said is, I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to try in a way that other presidents haven't been willing to try. He's put it on himself, and he gets a chance to deliver. And I say, fine, go for it, but you better get it right. Because Mary, I agree, the pain could be big.
Does the president lose any of his voting blocs, the farmers, for example?
Yeah, I think that's definitely at risk here. Look, President Trump deserves credit for talking about all of the different ways that China doesn't play fair on trade.
Which they don't.
Fine. Stealing intellectual property, restrictions on JVs, restrictions on equity stakes, forcing U.S. companies to give up their licenses. But there are many ways to punish China for that without simultaneously punishing U.S. consumers. Tariffs punish U.S. consumers. Taking China and restricting their ability to invest in tech sectors through CFIUS, great. Taking them to the WTO, great. You'd get a lot of support for that. But broad-based tariffs inflict pain on U.S. companies, pain on U.S. consumers needlessly. My fear here is that the Trump administration is going to start talking about managed trade with China to find a way out of this, to protect certain industries at the expense of others. That's what they did in South Korea. A win here would be to get China to start start protecting intellectual property. That's very hard. I'm not sure that they're going to have the time and patience to do it.
Last word, Brian. Everybody's weighing in. I mean, albeit very gingerly on Boeing's behalf, working its way through the daisy patch here. But the American Chemical Council has come out with this: engaging in a trade war with one of our most significant trading partners is not the answer. Your response?
Liz, my only thing I would say is you can't get a deal, you can't have a negotiation unless there's a little bit of uncertainty. If there's no uncertainty here, there's no room for negotiation. It's risky, it's costly, but this is the first time a president has said, I'm willing to take the risk to try to get a big thing done. Let's see what happens. It's on the president. He's asked it to be on him. It's on him.
Yeah, other presidents have imposed tariffs, but we'll bring you both back. This is certainly a lively conversation. Brian and Mary on, is a trade war a trade war? We shall see.